Hello everybody and welcome to the video. Today we're going to be doing a guide on the curiosities within the hit game Haven and Hearth. Since there's not many guides online, I thought I would make my own. This guide is going to assume that you have basic understanding of the game system, such as mental weight and LP and experience cost and stuff like that. So if you need help with things like that, I would suggest reading more on the wiki first before consulting this guide. But either way, let's get into it. These curiosities are not in any ranking in particular, they're just ones that I picked out that I personally like to use in my own game, and I'll explain why I think they're good, or, where they fall when we get to it. Okay, so starting with the snow globe. This is a good one because it has a really high base LP. Oh, I forgot to mention that in this video I'm mainly going to be covering the crafted curiosities, not the forageable curiosities. Just to make that clear. Okay, so yeah, the snow globe has really high base LP. The study time could be better, to be honest. Mental weight is not too bad. Could be better as well. The LP per hour, 320. That's pretty good. It does require glass, so it will be competing with the other curiosities that also require glass. Nugget of any metal, that's no big deal. You're gonna have shitloads of metal. Snow you can get just by going up to any mountain and digging. So that's probably going to be the limiting factor on this curiosity, is the base 10Q snow. I'm not really sure how you would push Q further with the snow. Yeah. Anyway, moving on to the cigar box. I really like this one. It can be made using 4 cigars. So if we look at the cigar quickly, that's just 4 cured pipeweed, a beautiful dream, and a string. So the cured pipeweed is really easy to get your farm going and getting heaps of cured pipeweed coming in. The beautiful dream, that's no big deal. You just put down your dream catchers. The string, that's good. This is a good one for pushing Q. Can get it quite high quite easily. And but the cigar is not good on its own. Has LP per hour of 200 and it's only a base of 1000 LP, and it uses a lot of experience. So the cigar box is the preferred method with this curiosity. So yeah, 4 cigars, block of wood, 1 wax, and 1 parchment. So that would be the biggest restriction on this curiosity, is the wax. You're not really going to want to make it early game when wax is the most sought after, so just keep that in mind. Moving on to shiny marbles. The shiny marbles is a really good curiosity. It's a 1x1 size. that's another thing that will come into play later on. All the curiosities I've shown so far have been one by one in your study grid, but there are curiosities that are 1 by 2, and you have to remember, like, a 1 by 2, you could be placing 2 different curiosities into those slots as opposed to just one. So when you look at the LP per hour and all that stuff, you kind of have to divide it in half. But we'll get to that when we come to it. The shiny marbles are a really good one. Really high base LP. Mental weight is very low for the amount of base LP they give. It's another one that uses glass, so it's going to be competing with any other curiosity that will use glass. So with clay, I'll just go with the acre clay or the ball clay. So that's the one that you can dig up from the mud flats or from like riverbeds, shallow water. Because you could go, if you were pushing Q, you could go with some of the other clay types, but at that point it's so try-hardy that it's like, is it even worth it? You can be the judge of that. It's not worth it, in my opinion. Okay, so moving on from the shiny marbles, we have the Easter egg family. I'm just showing the red one at the moment, but there is 4 of these. I think it goes... How does it go? Right, I think it goes red, blue, green, and then pink. So that's the rankings of from best to worst. So yeah, in my opinion, you only really want to keep the red and the blue one. But if you're really hard pressed for curios, you can also keep the green and the pink one. They're just not as good. Moving on to the Sears spindle. This is the first Sears curio that we've showed, but yeah, the Sears family is probably one of the best families of curios. They all use Beautiful Dream, so they will be fighting each other a little bit on your high quality dream catches. You'll definitely want to have enough of those up to sustain all of the Sears curios. This one in particular uses wool and a block of wood, so those are really easy things to get. You'll be sharing your sheep quite often. You'll have a lot of excess wool. Combine that with a block of wood, Beautiful Dream, you've got a curio that gives you base 4000 LP and mental weight of 20, LP per hour 243, and it's a 1x1, so it's a good curio. Moving on to Horrible Knot. Yeah, this is a crafted curio, but it does require like foraging, because you need to get the spindly nettle and the taproot. Most people, like, because of the way the crafting works in the game, if you have 7 spindly taproots in your inventory, it will craft all of them into one Horrible Knot, because the spindly taproot counts as a string. But really, you only need 1 spindly taproot, and once you realise that, this this curio actually becomes a lot better, because currently a lot of people underrate it. But yeah, one stinging nettle, one spindly taproot, 6 string. You can use that to push the queue quite easily. The majority components of the recipe can be pushed just by farming flax or hemp. Got a base LP of 3000. Mental weight of 4, that's insanely good. LP per hour 200, not bad. Pardon me. Moving on, we have another Sears family curio. This is the Sears stone. So this is just 5 stone of any type, 1 cloth, and a beautiful dream. So this one's awesome because, once again, very, very, very easy to push Q on. You can just grab the highest quality stones that you don't plan on using from your mine. There's always going to be a lot around. Cloth, yeah, you can push that through flax or hemp farming quite easily. Beautiful dream, just need those high quality dream catchers and you're away. Base LP of 4,500. Mental weight of 20. That's pretty good. LP per hour of 187. That could be higher, but once again, because of being able to push the queue so easily, that's like one thing we have to remember is when we look at the LP per hour, we also have to think about how easy it is for the curios' quality to be pushed, because some curios have a slightly lower LP per hour ratio, but then again they're made with ingredients that allow us to push their queue a lot higher more easily than others, and that can make the difference. Moving on to Ouroboros. This is another one that I don't see people use much. I don't know if it's underrated or not. Personally, I like this one. I've seen people use the Grand Horcrux, I think it's called, which is like a pile of meat and intestines. That one is similar to this one in the way that it uses entrails and intestines, but I prefer this curio because the Horcrux, I think it requires like 4 or 5 intestines, and it also takes up 2 slots, so it's, it really starts cutting into your sausage making storage, and yeah, just not as good. But with the Ouroboros, you need 3 adder hides, so that's the most tedious part of this curio, is having to go and hunt those snakes all the time. But yeah, 3 entrails, 1 intestine, so that's where it's beating the Horcrux, and a beautiful dream. And 1 by 1 slot. Base LP 7,800, mental weight 18. That really good conversion there. LP per hour 178. Not too shabby, not the best, not the worst. As far as pushing quality goes, it's not the easiest. It is doable. You're gonna want to be keeping your high quality intestines for other things though, so yeah. Anyway, moving on. Oak Spire. I like this one, even though it has a little bit low LP per hour. It's a very easy one to craft on mass once you get into the mid game. It's just 2 oak blocks and 2 quartz. Easy to push quality as well, pardon me. yeah, since it's just 2 oak blocks, 2 quartz, very easy to push quality. Base LP of 6,000, mental weight 8, not bad. Yeah, LP per hour a bit low, but you know. Moving on, we have the toy chariot. This one I don't use as much because it is kind of annoying how you have to first craft the unfired version and then place it into a kiln and fire it to get the actual chariot itself. But if you do want to go through that work, you do get a decent curio. It's easy ingredients to make. It's just clay. And base LP 3000, mental weight 3. It's a good conversion rate. LP per hour 136. Bit on the low end, but you know. It's easily acquired ingredients. So what are you gonna do? Moving on, got the bouquet of flowers. I like this one because it's really easy to make them en masse. You don't have to try too hard for this one. It's just 1 cloth, 2 strings and 6 flowers. All of these materials you will have a lot of in your base if you just do any reasonable amount of farming. You're gonna have an overflow of all 3 of these materials. Easy to push quality on. Base LP 2000 to a mental weight of 6. The base LP is a little bit low, but you know, it's a good conversion between this mental weight and the LP. LP per hour 120, you know, it's a bit low, but you can push the quality and easy to en masse. Moving on, we have the fossil collection. So I believe this is the first curio that I have shown that has a size of 2x1 instead of 1x1. And this is what I was talking about when you see, oh wow, 12,000 LP. That's a lot. But then you have to realize, oh, but it takes up 2 slots. So really, if this was a 1 slot curio, it would only be 6,000 LP. So if you can create 2 unique curios that have a LP of over 6,000, you know, it's more efficient to have 2 of those smaller curios than 1 of the bigger ones. But there is more to the equation than that, because there's also LP per hour and that. I'm not saying the fossil collection is a bad curio, don't get me wrong, I'm just trying to explain a small detail about the study system that a lot of players seem to not understand or disregard is, yeah, the actual size of the curio itself does matter. But yeah, petrified seashells, 6 of them, you'll have a ton of those if you do any reasonable amount of mining. Bone material 4, yeah, have a ton of those just from hunting. Block of wood 2, easy. Easy-ish to push Q on this one, with the bones and the wood. Seashell, that's a bit up to RNG, but you know, the lower you go, the higher the Q. Base LP 12,000, really good. Mental weight 35, not the best, quite high. I find it quite hard to use this in the early game. But then again, in the early game, the petrified seashells you'll be collecting will be low quality. So you might want to hold off on this one until the mid-game. Moving on, we have the Great Wax Seal. This is a really good curio, but it is very expensive to create. Since it requires 3 wax, it is usually not used in the early game, since you need the wax for other projects. But if you do have the extra wax, I would consider making this curio, because it is surprisingly good. Base 4000 LP, mental weight 25. You know, that's not the best conversion, but then when you look at the LP per hour, it makes up for it. By being up at 444, that's on the higher side of LP per hour. You can push the quality just by farming. If you put your beehives next to your high quality crops, and then you can get the high quality cloth from the same crops, and yeah, then you're away on high quality grey wax seals. Anyway, moving on to the scarab talisman. This one is a bit harder to obtain, I guess, because you have to get the chitin powder from either the ant dungeon or the cave louse creature, and yeah, both of those can be a hard challenge for like a solo player or someone that's just starting out. But if you can get the chitin powder, basalt is easy to come by, and you get a pretty good curio for it. Base 4500 LP, mental weight 42. It's not very good, that's probably one of the worst conversion rates that I've shown so far. But the LP per hour is up at 440 again, so just like, it's a similar story with the wax seal. You know, it's bad on these two, but this makes up for it. So, you know, once you get over 200 intelligence, you're not going to be caring about this as much. You're not going to be caring about this as much as you're caring about this. Anyway, moving on. This one is probably the most annoying to create curio on this list, so you be the judge whether it's worth it for you. But if you have people that enjoy hunting squirrels in your village, you may have a surplus of squirrel tails, in which case if you collect 9 of them together, you can combine them with a string to get this curio, which is actually pretty good. You know, I guess they made it good because of how annoying and hard it is to make, but got a base LP of 12,500, mental weight of 20, and LP per hour of 400. Keep in mind that this curio can even be made in the early game, because all it requires is drying squirrel tails on a rack and then using any string. Yeah, so it's a pretty good curio, but it's just let down by the amount of work it takes to actually create it. We're moving on. We have the Sears Bowl. This is another Sears family curio. They're all good ones. They're all good ones, guys. Most of them, anyway. The Sears Bowl requires copper nugget. You might care about that early on when you're saving it for bronze, but you know, later on you're just going to have a lot of copper, and this is a good thing to use it on. So it's just copper nugget and a beautiful dream. Oh, pardon me. Since it's produced on an anvil with the smithy's hammer, it's very easy to pump quality on this, even if you're using low quality copper. So it's a good dump in the mid to late game for all of your low quality copper that you don't think you're going to use. Base LP of 2000, mental weight of 10, that's decent. LP per hour of 274, it's on the higher side. This is a curio that you can make in the early game as well, so you know you got to keep that in mind. If it's a high LP per hour and it can be made in the early game, that's the makings of a good curio. Moving on, we have the tiny abacus. So for this one you need tin nugget of hard metal, block of wood, and a board. So this one can be annoying to craft because having the boards in your inventory is kind of annoying because of how big they are, but if you can get over that, it's a good curio. Requires nugget of hard metal, so it's for a bit later on, but it's easy to push Q on this one. Once again, 1.1 1x1 size, 4000 LP for a 14 mental weight. It's pretty good. And LP per hour is 274, so it's quite similar to the Sears Bowl, LP per hour wise. Yeah, good one. Moving on, we have our final curio for this video anyway. It's another 2x1 curio, so like the fossil collection, takes up 2 spaces in your study table. The Rattle Tattle Talisman takes 2 bone material, 2 string, 2 stone, and 1 leather. So it's one that you can start creating en masse quite easily in the early game. You can pump it higher quality in the late game. Base 6000 LP to a 8 mental weight, that's a very good conversion rate, and the LP per hour is 273, so pretty good curio. Alright guys, just on a closing note, I would like to mention a few of the curios I mentioned use this thing called pigment, and with the pigment I would suggest in the early game to use either beige or red pigment for your curios, because the beige pigment can be, you can increase the quality on that by collecting the mastic fruit from the mastic bush and plant them in a tree planter's pot and start grinding Q from there. With the red pigment, all you need is to grind your poppies and your beetroots. Later on you might decide to use purple or teal pigment, but that just depends on, you know, what quality your ingredients are in particular. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative, and I will see you later. Bye bye.